ladies and gentlemen, New York, baby. Yes. We are now post FOMC, and now everyone has come to terms with the fact that maybe the Fed is looking very slim for a rate cut. But we've just had some news that would suggest maybe that's something on the path. S&P and NASDAQ just trading at the all-time highs. Of course, the sell button doesn't work on the S&P and the NASDAQ. And just be very careful with it, guys, because we do have some more news coming out today. We have the Treasury, Yellen speaking. And then, of course, the 30-year bond auction. Now, what I'm going to do in this live is I'm just going to break down a couple of things in regards to the news and where investors' heads are at and how's that going to help us navigate what we can expect from today. I'm also going to dive into the story that Michael Saylor is now again buying Bitcoin. Hoorah! Let's all buy Bitcoin, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, Saylor has a different strategy. He's just all about buying it. You know, there's no selling involved. Which, I don't know, man. Do you get rich buying Bitcoin or selling it? It's one of those ones. You know, mad love to the guy who commented that in the channel. But what we're going to do is just understand what's going on in MicroStrategy and how, no, I'm not saying that this is something you should do, but what if we were to mimic the same behavior as Michael Saylor? But you've got to understand, like, you're borrowing money to buy Bitcoin on the basis that you've got the money coming in. So we're going to be talking about that, and that's going to help us understand from a stocks perspective where MicroStrategy stands. And by the time we're done with that, that should be in time for the New York Open, which is in 28 minutes time. And then it's yippee-ki-yay, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I've not traded at all. I haven't. I'm waiting for Yellen to finish her conversation and the 30-year bond auction to come into play. Now, I traded Monday, I traded Tuesday, nothing on the Wednesday, nothing on, well, might not even be today. The reason being is because everyone is still up in the air right now with absorbing what's actually happened in the market, especially yesterday with FOMC. So let's get with the program, ladies and gentlemen, and break it all down. Here we go. So here we are, hawkish Fed rate path. It's a little bit of a problem right now. And if we actually look at the statistics for where investors' heads are at in terms of a rate cut, you've got this statistic here that says there's a probability of around an 8.3% chance of a rate cut. And this was updated today. The probability of a rate hike is 0. Okay, so this chart outlines the FedWatch probability forecast for each and up-and-coming FOMC meeting. Okay, so, I mean, if we just consider it, where are we right now in the world? Well, look, just understand this. Right now, we've had the core PPI come in lower. This is important. Why? Because it shows us the change in price of finished goods and services sold by producers, excluding food and energy. So why is this good news? Well, what's the mandate for the Federal Reserve? What did Powell start off yesterday? You know, it's all about a strong labor market and, of course, you know, keeping control of prices. And here is an example. You know, they had 0.5% last time in May, and now we've got 0.0%. Like, the fluctuations are absolutely wild. And as Powell said, there's no clear trend. Now, if we just go over to the unemployment claims, that's a different story because we are now starting to see how the unemployment claims are starting to itch upwards. And we need to see that. So from May 2023, we got 215, May 30th, 219, and then June 6th, 229. And now it's going up to 242,000. And then, of course, Powell does like to take away from us as well. You know, 4%. On the unemployment market, we are technically at significant 50-year lows in the unemployment market. So even though the unemployment claims going up is sort of a good thing, it's not really grabbing the Fed's attention, in my opinion. Like, it's the labor market is still good. And he even said it last night. Now, we're going into the PPI itself, which is, of course, the price of finished goods and services sold by producers. This is actually came in at minus 0.2%. So, okay, so things look like they're okay when it comes to the data regarding price, which can have an impact on inflation. Now, if we just go over to the stock market just for a split second, I mean, what do you do there? What do you do when the stock market is trading at all-time highs and it's a very controlled high? There's a massive gap right here on the S&P and the futures markets, and the futures markets, they don't like these gaps and they like to get them filled, especially on an indice, man. Like, it's got to be crazy for such a big gap up to come into play. In my opinion, this is what you call an exhaustion gap or a climatic gap, where investors are just like, that's it, I'm missing out right now. Yippee-ki-yay, we are in. Now, with Yellen speaking today, okay, and she's going to be talking about, due to participate in a moderate conversation at the Economic Club of New York, audience questions are expected. Okay, so it all depends on what she's going to do. And what she says, it's a little bit of a market mover, so we just got to be very careful with what she says. I won't be trading at that time, but I'm waiting for the 30-year bond auction to come into play, which will then allow me to say, okay, then maybe we can look for some trading opportunities. I mean, I'm looking at the Asian session right here, and you can see that they've come up and swept the Asian session high. They've done the session low, but there's no real clear direction on the S&P right now. You've got you've got the NASDAQ over here, still trading at the highs, but of course there's a little bit of movement coming down. NASDAQ is always going to be a little bit more volatile than the S&P. We go into some stocks right now, which we're going to be talking about very shortly. We've got NVIDIA gapping up at the open, $128+. You've got Tesla doing relatively well, looking like it wants to come back and fill this gap. Microsoft still trading at the highs. Apple's doing awesome as well, given that she has made a nice significant move higher. Going into Aussie yen itself to help us understand what the relationship is with the dollar and the Aussie. So this is the carry trade principle. So as long as this asset is going up, dollar, Aussie yen, as long as that keeps on going up, it means that the dollar in principle is going down, because they are borrowing dollars to effectively convert that into Aussie, to then take that Aussie and then go and buy gold, euro, pound, Bitcoin, stocks. All of these are purchased by high-yielding assets like the Australian dollar against the yen, of course. So as long as that goes up, then it should lead to assets paired against the US dollar favorably to go higher, okay? Now, we've got to pay attention to the Japanese yen, because going into this evening, ladies and gentlemen, we do have news announcements for the Japanese yen and the monetary policy statement and the press conference. We're going to understand if there's going to be an intervention. There's been a lot of humming and ahhing about whether there has been an intervention or not, given the price volatility swings of the dollar, of the Japanese yen. But we've got an impactful red vector candle right here, which could suggest later on that we could actually see some volatility in the dollar, which means dollar goes down, the yen goes up, but only for a short period of time. All right, so that's something you've got to really take into consideration. Dollar dominance itself is holding out right now. It's come back into not the midpoint of the vector, but you can see that it's held very well at the midpoint of the vector candle, and this is a strategy in itself. If you just simply do this, ladies and gentlemen, and go and have a look at Bitcoin and take into consideration the vector candles where it reverses from in terms of the midpoints, a little bit of a tip for you. If you see a green vector candle or a red vector candle like this, okay, and it's making a move to the upside, all right, if there is no recovery straight away, there's a good chance that that recovery is going to happen later, and there could be a high chance that it actually falters, similar to what it did right here. Now, if we just go over into the 4-hour time frame, you can see what happened over here. Look at the red vector candle midpoint, how it respected it. There's the midpoint right there, taking the Fibonacci from the high and the low, and you can see the midpoint right there has been respected, and then price came down. Now what we've got with Bitcoin is we've got this sideways price action, and I do believe that they're actually preparing and waiting for the bonds market to come into play and the auctions, because last time the 10-year auction came through very successfully, and that led to investors buying up as much dollar, or should I say as many US bonds in principle. So that tells us that they could be favoring risk. Now, going into the yields themselves to understand, the yields are going down, but look at where we are. We're back again in this situation where we see a spike lower, but then we can also anticipate that the yields could be marking up, which means that the stock market in principle should be going down. Going into the 10-year bonds themselves, you can see they've they've wicked the highs, and now they've come back down again. We're going to be anticipating that the behavior from the Fed, even though it's hawkish, is naturally going to end up leading some assets to pull back. There could be some profit-taking opportunities, which leads me over to what's going on in cryptocurrency. Speaking of which, if we go and have a look, you can see Terraform Labs pays $4.5 billion in SEC fraud case. So the SEC also had a payday yesterday, so that is good. And it says crypto company will be put out of business for good. Agency tells court in proposed resolution. Well done, SEC. Okay, even though that guy, he ripped off so many people. Do whatever you want, bro. Just get out of the space, man. Okay. But that's where we are right now with cryptocurrency as well. And then just the topic of conversation. Michael Saylor, MicroStrategy, offers $500 million in convertible notes to buy more Bitcoin. All right, then. So let's just go and have a look at MicroStrategy for a split second. Here we go. Just open this chart up. Have a look at where MicroStrategy is at. MSTR. Happy days. All right, then. So what do we know? Well, as it stands right now, you can see it looks like it's creating a cup with handle, shaking out all the weak investors. This thing is still $1,603 a share. That is phenomenal. $27 billion market cap itself. Volume is relatively light across the board down here. As you can see that it's not actually above the red line, which is an average, a 50-day average. So you can see that volume's not really coming into MicroStrategy, but yet it's not actually breaking out from anything. It's 8% away from its pivot. So what's their service? Well, look, man, they've got 532 funds that are actively involved in this stock. So if you look to the right here, you can see 532 funds. Management holds 6% of the stock. Funds are owning around 45% of the stock that is available in the circulation. So they're now going to be offering some more. They're offering convertibles to effectively get that money and buy more Bitcoin. All right, then. So how are we gonna translate that? Well, looking at Bitcoin's price action right now, if we just go to the daily time frame, you can see that Bitcoin it's just got this problem down here. This area here is a bit of an issue for me. It's stalling at the 50 EMA. It swept it, come back up, swept again, come back up, swept down, and the current day's candle looks like it wants to try and hold above. And at least if it can stay within this candlestick range itself, then that is a very good sign for Bitcoin. But if we do see a collapse in Bitcoin's price, and even if they do break the 66 zone, Bitcoin is more than likely going to keep on trading lower towards the 61 zone. That could be something that could happen. As I said, that could be something that can happen. I'm telling you as it is what we see right now. I mean, I'm not going to give you no wild price swings and say, well, Bitcoin's to 100K. That does not provide you any value. It does not allow you to make a responsible decision because you're here because you want to try and buy something. You want to see if you can put some money to work. And when we pull all the information that we have in front of us, because remember, ladies and gentlemen, this is what we're trading. We are effectively trading the unknown. We have no idea what Bitcoin's going to do next. We can only make the assumption that there is an area of, well, the story of probability can come into play, and we can make life easier for ourselves by looking at certain concepts that will enhance the probability of it working in our favor if we buy, for example, at this point on Bitcoin. Okay. Now we can take things like the Bookmap itself. Look at the Bookmap right now from our day traders. We can then say to ourselves, okay, where's Bookmap again? Bookmap is suggesting, sorry, I don't know why I said that. It's suggesting that the VWAP itself for the session is still currently stalling at the VWAP. No real price movement on Bitcoin. We had some nice little offers coming into play all the way up here, and then they just brought price all the way back down again. We're still trading below the concept of the 70,000, and you can see that we've got this wall right here where there's 295 Bitcoin orders at 68,700, okay? 68,800, sorry. Then you've got 68,550, you got around 282 Bitcoin orders. And the Bookmap serves because it tells me where is value being transacted at right now. So right now you can see this is the session volume profile on the right of the chart here, okay? So that tells me that this is where most of the transactions are happening in Bitcoin. And that range itself is 68,400. And then we go down a little bit here, we can say 66,800. So if you're a holder and you're saying to yourself, right, I want to make some purchases today, I want to buy Bitcoin. Do I or should I actually invest in it right now? Well, you'll say to yourself, well, if we've spent best part of the day stuck in this range and we just had a little sweep up, there could be some interest in Bitcoin to market higher, because if you look at the differences in the profile on the right, you can see that there's a lot of activity up here. There seems to be around 12,000, about 15, 16, 8, nearly about 25,000 contracts in profiles up here. And then you've got this area here, but then you've also got this imbalance zone right there. So naturally, the market's going to gravitate towards an area of imbalance where it can actually transact so that the book itself is evenly distributed. Okay, you can see that is an imbalance zone right there. There are not many contracts in there. That means price has effectively moved at speed. So they're going to want to try and finalize and say, who's up there? Is there anyone that we can sell into? Is there anyone that can be buying in that range? So they're naturally going to want to move price towards that point just to level off the book and hopefully try and attack some of this area up here around the 69,600. Now, to put it into perspective on Bitcoin's price action, if we consider the idea of the whole number, half number principle. Now, what I'd like you all to do, if you're on your charts right now, is just highlight the 70,000 point, okay? Pull that up on your charts and look at the 70,000. Now, by the logic of the market maker, for anyone that is new to this, right? The market maker, and there's this pricing phenomenon that comes into play. You walk into a shop, the amount of money that they want you to spend doesn't always look like, it's never a round number. It's always the number below the main number. So in other words, buy this product for $99 or $24.99 or $55.99, $69.99. It's never the whole number, okay? Because psychologically it makes you think, well, I didn't spend $100, I spent $99. It just does something to you. But then when it's something that they want you to be feeling encouraged about, it's always a whole number. A whole number has more priority. It has more precedence over anything. Save $500. Save $100. Save $10,000. You ain't going to give two rats if a guy comes up to you and says, would you like to save £175 and 34 pence? You'll be like, why the 34? Why 34? Well, what's that 34 going to do? Do you want to save $175.34? I said pence. I've got my bearings off today. Do you get what I mean? That's where we are right now with the $70,000 mark, okay? Now, market maker likes to buy, so just put this into your minds, okay? Take that. There you go. Now, when market maker wants to buy and sell into, okay, he does it below key notable areas. So imagine he's buying, and then all of a sudden you see this flush of liquidity going through, okay? Likewise, when he's looking to sell, what happens? He's selling, he's getting his positions ready for it, and then he collapses price to the downside, okay? All the guys that have been buying up here like, yeah, baby, Bitcoin to the moon, Michael Saylor's buying, okay, cool, thank you very much. You are my liquidity for my short. Bang, rips it to the downside. And he's getting that price filled above the key notable area. So what's the key notable area we're referring to right now? Well, you can see Bitcoin right now is currently around the 70,000 zone. It's the biggest number in the range, the whole number, okay? It has more precedence. Why? Because it's closer towards the all-time high. And it seems to be an area that there is no real follow-through from. So if you look at the profile of what's going on in front of us right now, you can see they manipulated price here on the break of the 70,000, all right? Then you get another manipulation on the 70,000. And then you get another manipulation here on the 70,000. Then you get another one here on the break of the 70,000. Another manipulation right here. And then look what they just did only yesterday. That little tap up there, okay? This is all on the 70,000 region itself, okay? What does this tell us? Well, it does suggest to us that they could be building their shorts as price gets above the 70,000, and they are aggressively moving price away from that. So what happens here is psychologically, people are excited to buy Bitcoin at these highs. You need the proof of that. Just go to the high block and look what happened yesterday. They were buying. Perfect time to sell. Look at these dudes, buying, and it just ripped to the downside, made them all pay the price. This doesn't make sense. Why are you buying? Look, out of all these guys here, there was 1, 2, 3 people, 4 people, 5 people that had a brain that went short from the highest point. Because you sell an investment of value. You sell it at a high value, don't you? Tell me why that doesn't work. Tell me where it doesn't make sense. Why are you buying as it's rising? Why? It frustrates me because we get the information about the human nature of people. It's there. Look at all these dudes buying. Like I said to you all, they do not care for your view on Bitcoin's price. They don't care. BlackRock doesn't care about Bitcoin. If it did, it'd be accumulating way more. It's only interested in getting the ETF fees of you buying the ETF. That's where they make their money, okay? Bitcoin's too volatile to make money for an institution like that, in the sense where one day it's up $1 billion, next day it's down $1 billion. That's not consistent. That's why Vanguard is like, no, thank you. We're not interested in encouraging this ETF. It doesn't sit in line with our philosophy for investing, all right? So it's, like I said, when you understand that, I mean, Michael Saylor, it's a different story, okay? Like, he's using debt to buy Bitcoin. That's why he's like, buy as much of it as you can. Technically, it doesn't cost you a single penny. It doesn't cost you nothing. Happy days. What a great business model. No problem. Of course, you're going to be the biggest scout for it. But when you come to understand how Bitcoin is working, all right? And then you take into consideration human nature. Notice how every time it breaks the 70,000, it's on a vector candle. It's a psychological trigger. Look, go back in the charts. I've said this before. Go and look at every whole number in Bitcoin that has been very impressionable. Go and look at every article. It's talking about the 70,000. The 70,000 needs to break 70,000, needs to do 70,000, okay? 70,000 seems to be the point which is grabbing people's attention to go long from. And when they go long, they're going short. That's why the drops back down are just as brutal. But the same token, each time they do break down below the 70, they are holding out. And you can see the red vector candles are not allowing Bitcoin to break down. So we could be getting this sort of behavior, ladies and gentlemen, for a little while with Bitcoin. Goes above the 70,000, comes straight back down again. We get a sweep of the all-time high, straight back down again, because this is the area that they're grabbing people's attention until they move price to the next point where they know they can grab more attention from people. All right? Does that make sense, ladies and gentlemen? Tino, yesterday's daily close on Bitcoin. What's your thoughts? Blue candle on with top wick on the 50 EMA, but below the 5 and 13. All right, look. Yeah, the pay. Yeah, I saw that, Peter. I did see that. The jobs data, he said it's a bit overrated, overstated. Sorry. Like, cheers, pal. Thanks for letting us know. Just before I continue, are we good with this idea of the whole and half number principle? It's the whole number. They buy below it and they break through it. They sell above it and they break down through it. Just go, as an exercise, go back in the charts, highlight this any whole number that you've got a range from. So like the 66,000, and go back and look at what price is doing before it reaches that 60,000. It's going to be breaking on a vector candle. It always breaks on a vector candle, okay? Do it on the 1 hour time frame, 4 hour time frame, whatever you want. There's always going to be a vector candle breaking through the whole number, which is 66, 67, 69, 70, whatever it is. All right? Cool. So the question is, yesterday's daily close on Bitcoin. Well, let's just go to the daily time frame for my holders right now and understand where we are with that respect. Okay. So blue candle with top wick on the 50 EMA, but below the 5 and 13 EMA. Fundamentally, if we're going to be trading exclusively on the idea of moving averages on higher time frames, well, what you need to do is you need to have a look at where you are. Where are the most significant areas in the chart that would then suggest maybe price could get there? Because remember, moving averages are slow and it needs to take its time to achieve where it needs to go, okay, to get direction. So the first thing you want to look for, guys, is highlight this area here. That is a significant area for us, and that sits at around the exact price point is 56,515. The next significant area in Bitcoin was this area right here, which they tested, okay? And they managed to move away from it. Happy days. Now, the next significant area would be up here, and then, of course, after that would be the all-time high with Bitcoin, okay? Now, we're not paying attention to all-time high just yet, even though Bitcoin is so close to its all-time high. Looking at its current price point, well, we're only 8% away, 8.5% away from the all-time high. Now that we've got this structure in front of us, we can simply say, right, I just need Bitcoin to go to all-time high. Okay, right, what's it going to do beforehand? What could it do beforehand? So we've got an imbalance down here, which now I need to pay close attention to, because Bitcoin, being volatile as it is, has the capacity to come back into that vector candle. It does have the capacity, okay? And if we just take the midpoint of the vector candle, we can then say, okay, I would expect some support, at least some support to come into play at the 63,816. If Bitcoin does drop down, ladies and gentlemen, DCA principle would say that this could be a good area for Bitcoin for you to do DCA on Bitcoin, okay? But with that being said, you have to factor in that there could be a possibility of them going into 56. Your positioning here has to allow that possibility to come into play. Hopefully it doesn't, but you've got to allow it to absorb that potential move. Because if you don't, then you're going to put in size at this point right here and go balls deep on Bitcoin, DCA baby, all right? And then you're going to be the guy that's scratching his head, wondering, oh man, I can't, it's hurting me. I did not expect that. Yeah, but they said on Twitter, they said on X, man, fuck that. It's irrelevant, okay? Whatever anyone says on X, YouTube, anything, okay? Let's look at the weatherman analogy. The weatherman can tell you how likely the rain is going to come in the next hour, 2 hours, 10 hours, the next day. If you go to the weatherman and say to him, I want to know what the weather's going to be like in the next 3.5 weeks or the next 4 months, he's going to look at you and be like, ugh. I can't tell you, dude. Like, there's so many variables that come into play, all right? To throw random prices out at people just to keep with the narrative of being bullish is bullshit. You've got to take this game seriously because you're committing your own money. Not the dude that's saying 100K Bitcoin. No. He ain't putting the money down for you. I mean, listen, if he was going to say, if I were to go to you all and say, ladies and gentlemen, I believe Bitcoin is going to go to 100 grand, okay? I'm going to take 5 people and whatever their net worth is, I'm going to put that up with their money because I believe Bitcoin's going to go to 100 grand. I mean, hey, that'll be a fantastic influencer in cryptocurrency because he's sharing the risk. 150K Bitcoin, 200K Bitcoin. Cool, bro. That really does give me that nice little unicorn in the corner. Like, woohoo! You know, like it's all happy days. Yes, we get the idea that Bitcoin is a supply and Bitcoin does have the capacity to keep on going up. But the idea of we got to take it seriously now. That's what I mean. Like, you can't just be with the fairies and be like, it's going to 100K, bro. Yeah, all right, cool. Then what happens? What about now? What's it doing now? How can I get a good feel now? I think it'd be a good idea to buy Bitcoin now because it's going to go to 100K. It's bound to go to 100K. Man, fuck that. It doesn't make sense. You walk into a hedge fund and you say to them, it's bound to go to 100K. They'll look at you like, get this guy out of here, man. He ain't even worth, serving me coffee. What's he talking about? You don't know what could go wrong in your position because you're fixated on the idea of what it could become. You are now being results-based orientated, and that in poker is terrible. You need to be in the process. You need to understand what's going on now, and if you have an edge, naturally the results will deliver themselves. You can't put yourselves through that. So when we look at something like this and say, okay, 63,861 could be a point that we could load up on a DCA principle. By the 420 method, you would commit around 20% of your exposure or your capital that you're looking to invest in Bitcoin. Then you want to wait for some more information. Why? Because there is a possibility Bitcoin could come down. We are not eliminating what can't happen. There's no such thing as it can't happen. It's always the case of there is a possibility that it may. And how am I positioned to prevent myself from losing my brain if that does happen? Well, I've got this in place. I'm only committing 20% of my capital. I've got 80% behind me just in case it does happen. And I can then load up on a retrace and capture Bitcoin at a discount once it's finalized. For example, this area here at 63,000 or even testing this 56K zone itself at the lows. Never say that Bitcoin can never go. Don't ever say Bitcoin can never go because they said it could never go above $100. It ripped it, okay? But don't ever say Bitcoin can never go below. But be realistic with your expectations. Don't say Bitcoin will never go, well, Tino, shut up, man. Tino will never go to $1. Bitcoin will never go to $1. That is just a wild expectation, okay? It's crazy. But when you say something like, what's more realistic? If I say to you, there is a possibility that Bitcoin could visit the 40K zone again. There could be a possibility. It's only 20K away. It's only 28K away. And we look at it from a numbers perspective, and we look at where price is from there. That's a 53% drop. Bitcoin can drop 53%. You got guys in crypto that are like 80% drop on my portfolio. Chilling, bro. I'm live. I'm good, man. I'm gutted it's not 90%. You know, I expected a little bit more, you know. Yeah. That's the culture that we're in. All right? But when you approach this with a logistical way of thinking, you're then going to come away from the fairies and be like, yeah, man, Bitcoin 100K. For God's sake. Get to 80 first. Then we can have a conversation. And the question is, oh, yeah, but I want to be in beforehand. If this thing is parabolic and it doesn't stop going up, okay, any retrace you buy, but be realistic with it. Okay, if it goes to 80K, because 80K is not far away, hits 80K, we now have more weight to suggest that it can go to 100. But each time it goes up, ladies and gentlemen, the bar is raised. 150, 200. We'll get to Bitcoin trading at 172,000 and we'll be like, ladies and gentlemen, man, Bitcoin would never go to 100K. Could never do it. Could never do it. Man, it's just crazy. But set yourself realistic expectations, man. All right? Because the game is moving because you're putting your money in. You want the proof of that? It's all there. And people borrowing money from exchanges, you're facilitating that. All right? Dudes like this, well, you got 27 billion market cap behind you to be able to buy Bitcoin, and you're not even doing it with your own cash. You're using stock, using the liquidity of investors in stocks. You're selling that stock. Give me your money. I'm going to go buy some more Bitcoin. You know? I'm all out for crypto, guys. Don't get it all twisted, right? I'm out for it. But my goal is just to get people onto the same wavelength and not be naive into thinking that something can't happen, but something else can. There's always the possibility that it could. And if you have that in your mindset when you're investing, you're not going to be surprised by anything. You ain't going to be the dude that's scratching his head concerned about the way Bitcoin's moving. Oh, I missed out on. You ain't missed out on nothing, bro. Nothing. Because Bitcoin will always go up and down because people's value expectations will always change. All right? You're in a liquid market. Well, you're not really in a liquid market because Bitcoin's only what? Cryptocurrency ain't that much of a liquid place. Let's just put it into perspective. Total market cap for cryptocurrency overall is $2.4 trillion. NVIDIA does that. NVIDIA's chilling. NVIDIA's a stock that only trades half the time. That doesn't really have that much, well, there's not that much scrutiny on NVIDIA, but they used cryptocurrency to get themselves to where they are now. Why ain't Bitcoin at 100K yet? It always gets me thinking, you know? But anyways, I hope that makes sense, ladies and gentlemen. All right? Add logic to your trading. Be realistic with your expectations. Have a price point. I'm going to buy Bitcoin from this point right now because I know Michael Saylor's buying it. All right, cool. I'm going to buy it. But what if it goes down? If it goes down, diamond hands, no problem. I'm happy to absorb it. Okay, cool. Realistically, where would you be buying again? I'll wait until it gets to 75,000 all-time high and I'll buy some more. You know, don't look at it like that. If you are really in the game of cryptocurrency and you have no interest in what Bitcoin's price is, and you're buying it so that you can look at it in the next 10 years, you have no reason to ever look at a chart. Never. Go and get yourself a widget and put it on your phone. And what's the price of Bitcoin? Google the price of Bitcoin, right? And just see how much is it. Oh, okay, cool. I'll just go and buy some more. Never mind. Set up your standing order direct debit to just pick it up as often as you like. Then you won't have any emotions. Of course, if there is a catastrophe and the markets completely flop, or we have an EMP, then your Bitcoin is pretty much in the bin anyway, so it doesn't matter. So you may as well just buy it. It's one of them ones. But I'm coming from a different perspective with crypto and trading overall. You know, the Bitcoin it's so manipulated, it hurts. It does hurt. Bitcoin manipulation is terrible, you know, and yesterday was the proof of that, you know. Stock market, though, like, you know, if you look at the stock market, I mean, what outperformed Bitcoin? This will piss people off. This should get people thinking about it all. Here we go. Okay. So you can see that the S&P and Bitcoin have successfully moved in sync with each other. Okay? But yet Bitcoin hasn't really done too well as of late when it's had every reason to do so. Look at this price range right here. So boring. Why should they contain Bitcoin's price? Bitcoin should be exploding with the S&P right now. But it's not. And there are days that Bitcoin doesn't bloody move. Look at this price action from here, from December the 4th. going all the way over to February the 13th. S&P was just climbing non-stop during that whole time, but Bitcoin was just doing nothing. It was just going up, then down, and then back in again. Very frustrating asset to trade. But if you're in it for the tech, ladies and gentlemen, you're in it for the tech with Bitcoin. That's exactly what you're in it for. Nothing else. Just because it gives you the freedom to move money. And there's nothing wrong with that. But there are people that hold on to people's word. What price is Bitcoin going to go to? Where do you think it's going to go, Tino? I'll give you a realistic projection. One that could possibly happen, all right, soon. But 100K Bitcoin, 150K Bitcoin, just because it sounds good saying it, man, fuck that. This is a very, very difficult game to be in, all right? One man's fun is another's hell. When the guy's holding on to dear life because he heard that 100K Bitcoin's coming into play, well, they said the same thing back when Bitcoin hit 69,000 and then Bitcoin dropped to 16K. That was a very sore time. God forbid that was going to be the case again and Bitcoin just collapses from here. Yeah, DCA and all that stuff. I'm cool with that. But God, man, that was a long time dropping, man. For God's sake. You know, that was a big drop and it just never stopped. All right. One glimmer of hope. Yeah, man, it's moving up to 47. Happy days. It just came back down again. We'll know if Bitcoin is truly manipulated if it doesn't hit 100 or 80K at least by the end of this year. I mean, look, it's only 20% away. Like, let's just look at it from this perspective. 100K again. Let's go. Look, Bitcoin, surely Bitcoin's had every reason to jump that much. It's a volatile asset. Why ain't it moving? Maybe we're in line for the Fed pivot. Who knows? But yeah, that's it. Hey, man, look, this is it. Listen, I am not trashing I ain't lost no money on Bitcoin. When you're staking, you don't lose. There's a big difference, all right? I ain't lost no money on Bitcoin. But you're trying hard to trash Bitcoin. Bitcoin is up hundreds of % this year. What else do you want? I'm encouraging it, dude. Like, I'm happy for Bitcoin to be up. But what I'm going on about is the average person that's coming into Bitcoin and holding on to it for dear life, all because of someone saying it's going to go to that price point. There's this block in their minds that they're not interested in anything else, and then they'll be scratching their heads wondering why something didn't happen. This game's fucked up. And Bitcoin maximalists, you'll challenge me on it. Fine, I'm cool with that. All right? When I say this thing is ripped apart, manipulated, and they can see that we've got a benefit having Bitcoin. Holding Bitcoin is different to trading it. Get it in your minds. I'm talking about trading Bitcoin. Holding Bitcoin? Of course you want to hold Bitcoin. It's the only thing that's challenging fiat right now. But trading Bitcoin, because that's what 90% of people doing in the space. There's your people right there. All these people not paying themselves. It's going up and it gets ripped against them. It's going up. Bad education. Up, down. Who went long at that point at 69,000? Yeah, baby, we're going to the moon. Bang, it rips it back down again. The thing is badly manipulated. But people don't give a fuck about that. They just want to buy the Bitcoin. Cool, buy the Bitcoin. Don't leverage it, you know? I ain't shit talking no Bitcoin. If anyone's out for Bitcoin, it's me. Because if I was shit talking Bitcoin, you would never hear me talking about Bitcoin. I've been looking at Bitcoin for the past nearly 4 years, every single day. I ain't know no one that does that. Unless you're trading Bitcoin. All right? Every single day I give my analysis on this bad boy. From January 21st, 2021 to the current date, ladies and gentlemen, I've watched this bad boy move up and down. And he just repeats the same shit over and over again. If you can capitalize on that bad boy, happy days. Holding Bitcoin, I'll hold Bitcoin. There's no qualms with that. I'll shit talk XRP and I hold a bag of it. I will always shit talk XRP. But I might be saying something to someone that could trigger something that make them think, yeah, you know what? Maybe he's got a point. Maybe he hasn't got a point. I'm not forcing an opinion. I'm just giving you my thoughts on this game. The game. Keep playing it. Make money, get out. Make money, get out. Always be able to sit back and look and be like, The guys yesterday had some fun. They ripped them apart again. That's my view. That's my view. There you go. It just doesn't make sense to me. Just looking at the comments. Tino, for the same reason it's getting manipulated, wouldn't BlackRock and other ETFs want to see it go to 100K and above so their shareholders can see profits? Man, Peter, come on. Their shareholders see profits. Do you understand what an ETF is? What was the conversation? Okay? What was the conversation when the ETF was going to get rolled out? They were all competing for what the price was for the transaction cost on the ETF itself. How much was it going to cost you to hold the ETF? The first $5 billion worth of volume in the ETF, it would keep price at 0.25%. After that, we're going to be adjusting it. BlackRock gives no fuck about the Bitcoin. It doesn't care. It makes more money getting you to buy it because of the amount that you're going to be using. So if I put 50K into the ETF, they're going to be eating me alive with these fees on the ETF. They earn transactional. Goldman Sachs, on their last earnings announcements, where was most of their revenue generated? It weren't no sales. It was all transactional volume. Trading. Hello, Mr. Jones. What are you doing today, sir? Oh, I'm all right. I'm just with the missus. She wants to buy a bag. How much is that bag? 20,000. Before you do that, John, you might want to pick up some Bitcoin ETF. Really? Yeah. Well, if you do it today, we're going to transact X, Y, and Z. All right, chuck a couple of grand. No, we need the 20 grand. Forget your wife's bag. Oh, all right, then. I trust you anyway. Thank you very much, John. Bang. Transaction. He makes himself 2%. Goldman Sachs takes 1. He takes 1% as well. Happy day. They don't give a shit what the actual ETF does. It's the transaction that has been made. Happy days. That's the business you're in, ladies and gentlemen. I'm out for Bitcoin all day. Yes, Bitcoin. I'm out for it. The tech, genuinely the tech. Trading it, get your money in and get the fuck out. Mad love and respect. I'm out of here.